Okay, Hellblazer 3.
Right.
I haven't gotten into 2 yet. Bit on this week.
Sure.
Didn't did all the stories which were connected with Ray Bradbury. So I got up to the Screaming Woman.
They were
Had a
all
bit of a look at the jellyfish. A very different style. So you can see the stories which are sort of have a bit of a Ray Bradbury, have very different sort of style to a lot of other stuff.
they were all Ray Bradbury stories. Every one of them.
All of them.
Yeah, all of them. Which
Other inspired by stories. Okay.
eh, well,
They don't give any credit to Ray Bradbury uh,
yeah.
after the Screaming Woman.
Yeah. Well, we read a lot of inspired by Lovecraft stories too, so
Yes, I didn't have time to get past that. So yeah, bit of a look at the jellyfish. That was about all.
no big deal. I was just interested in knowing, so did you, well, you read what you read. So you see there's more. So are you interested in doing another week to pick up the rest, or are you good with what we did here for this volume?
Yeah, I think it's satisfactory for this volume, I
Okay.
imagine.
I'm happy with that. That's fine with me because, yeah, I was expecting 2 weeks. We did it in one. That's fine. I'm okay with that. Hey, Ariel. Hey, Ariel. Cool.
Hmm.
Hey,
But
how
here,
you doing?
but let me warn you that when I've already posted Home to Stay Part 2 on the meetups calendar, and
No, that's
I'm not
good.
going to change that. So when you see it, it'll say Home to Stay, but we'll actually be doing something else. Just keep that in mind.
Oh, okay.
Even
Oh,
though it says Home to Stay, ignore that. We'll do something else. It'll be Ray Bradbury still, but it'll be other Ray Bradburys.
hey, well, you could have put Ray Bradbury in bigger letters. You might have attracted a few. It's Natalia. Right. She's going out to lunch with her family.
No, we'll still do more Bradbury. There's more Bradbury to come. This is our
Okay,
second.
you got that very 1950s vibe about it all, which I
Yeah.
quite enjoy. A different sort of world. A world in which there was a great fixation on bumping off your marital partner,
Well,
since divorce wasn't easy.
those pulp stories always seem to tend towards the lurid. Let's do this then. Here we go. We'll skip right to the fun science fiction. Okay. And title story, Home to Stay.
Okay, this was the one that inspired the song Rocket Man,
Yeah.
which was in the American Illustrated Man, but not in the British illustrated version of the Illustrated Man.
This is Wally Wood. Long, highly regarded. Have we ever done it? Yeah, well, back when we did Mad. We saw a tiny bit of Wood's humor, Mad Comics. We saw some Wood there, but this is Wood's reputation was his science fiction EC stories. And you can see why. When he was cooking, he was on.
Okay, Wallace Wood. Okay, yeah, it's it's very
When Wood
typical
was
of the period. They were inspired by the greats, what the guy that did Prince Valiant and the other guy you said.
Alex Raymond and yeah, Hal Foster did Prince Valiant, but Alex Raymond did Flash Gordon.
No, it's not. You don't really see this type of exactly this type of work anymore, do you?
Boy, it's extremely rare. There are individual practitioners here and there that I might point to, but it's very rare. Yeah, very rare. Yeah.
This tends to have a lot of your favorite cross-hatching stuff on it, doesn't it?
So let me ask you this. When this book was printed, it was in black and white, and I opted for the color. Does that make any difference at all to you?
Oh, I think yeah, the colors probably. I don't know. I don't know. So the original comics were in black and white. Are you saying?
No, the original comics were in color.
Rightio, but they did a black and white take.
Yeah.
Okay, I'd probably go with whatever the original concept was. The
Hmm.
artist is going to work on presenting it in that form.
Yeah, that's what I opt for usually. So I went with the color. But okay.
It was back in the days of the stay-at-home wife.
Right. But yeah, I mean that's the thing. You look at these old EC comics by these great and you just admire the craft. That's incredible artwork that these guys put together. And such a murderer's row of talent EC had. That's why they got the reputation. They, often said to be the best comics ever done. And well, now that I've finally gotten around to reading some of them, I can see why that reputation came to be.
Good to see after all those years, the wife never lost her figure.
Well, that's one of the things about, Wood, Wally Wood. He would get quite a reputation for drawing the female figure, let's say. Yeah, really, 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 really nicely done comics, done at a time where nobody would have thought such artistry could be done in comics, certainly not in North America, anyway.
Well, this was the era that was inspired by the concept of outer space until I think it turned a bit sour in the 1970s, and you saw, I think in the 1980s, you're starting to see a lot of apocalyptic stuff showing up in science fiction.
Mm.
But this was relatively more progressive, but Bradbury in particular combines it with his like for horror.
Yeah, I'm guessing you skipped the horror stories.
You mean, well, I did everything from the start.
Oh, okay. Well, great.
Yeah,
We can go.
yeah, the earlier ones were horror, weren't they?
Yeah, we can go through those if you want.
Yeah, so yeah, the lake, small assassin handler, the coffin.
Yeah, yeah, we can go
I,
through
I
them.
found them just slightly dopey. It's interesting that they did the coffin story in the Ray Bradbury Theatre.
Yeah,
I thought it was a bit of it was a bit lame, actually.
yeah. I remember watching that when it was on here and there.
Of course, the exceptional story was what was it? The Sound of Thunder was one of the short
Yeah,
stories that made him famous.
yeah, one of his most famous stories, Sound of Thunder. Yeah,
You get the impression he was probably horrified of the thought of Eisenhower getting into power.
yeah, possibly.
So that's sort of built around, oh, okay, you got this junkyard dealer who goes on a fantasy rocket trip. Okay, so they're using this guy as a basis for Jesus. Touch and go, okay, that was a more one I looked at
Yeah,
very recently. So he becomes obsessive. So this is the thing that sucks you into the story. When's this guy going to give up trying to rub out the fingerprints?
yeah, yeah. Like what the Murder at the Rue Morgue? No, what is it?
And he
Telltale Heart.
defeats his entire purpose since he's still at the scene when the cops show up.
Right, right. Telltale Heart. Who did this? Does it say? Doesn't say. Johnny Craig.
King of the Grey Spaces, very simple story. It was done in World War II.
Hmm.
So you got the mother and the two boys, and you get the feeling that the mother, who's a widow,
Mm.
is lining something up with his friend. Okay, getting a bit obsessive there, but obsession is something that happens to people. I got it playing computer war games.
Really? Huh.
I lost a lot of weight when I was playing computer war games. I gave up smoking actually because I was so obsessed with playing the games that I could avoid smoking for about a month, which was enough to
Cool.
get me off it.
My worst addiction ever was sugar.
Oh, right. Yeah, I went and had a chocolate bar a few days ago.
Yeah.
And yesterday I was getting sort of, a strong hunger sensation. So
Yeah.
somehow sugar, I'll start looking at cakes and finding them attractive again.
Right. Yeah.
Natalia showed me a photo of a cake she's getting for her mother because we have local Mother's Day tomorrow. And I was just looking at this picture of the cake and thinking, oh, the icing and everything on it. So
Yeah. Yeah.
I'd found years ago that really the trick was generally pretty much to keep away from, sweets. And after a while, your attraction declines.
It does. Yep.
But if you stray from the path,
Mhm.
it can come back very quickly.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah, it was bad for me. And once I stopped, yeah, the cravings went away. Yeah.
The flying machine, okay.
This is Krigstein.
Well,
Uh,
we don't want progress. It'll upset the upset the scenery.
Right.
But this is the interesting thing, of course, the same thing happened in Europe with the Roman Empire. Once, once the Mediterranean was ruled by an emperor, technical progress slowed down, stopped, declined. Although there were perhaps a few little things, but this is what happened to the Roman Empire. The sort of the 500 years it was there, there's virtually no technical progress.
Hmm.
And they talk about China. Well, China almost invariably gets an emperor. You know, one dynasty will break down. There'll be a period of civil war to be replaced by the same old China again.
Yeah. I've heard that if you study ancient Egyptian history, you'll find, I mean, that's a long history. That's like 4,000, 5,000 year history, ancient Egypt. That went on for a long time. But if you really study it, what you'll find is there were individual periods here and there, where there was a revolution and they overthrew the pharaohs and they actually instituted something similar to democracy. That actually happened
Democracy. Oh, okay.
in
Okay.
ancient Egypt, and inevitably, every single one of them collapses in a couple of years, and they reinstitute the pharaohs.
Oh, well, you got it now. Donald.
And the reason why was because that was the system that worked.
Got it now, man. Donald Trump, he's your emperor. Because what happens when with democracy, the downside is you get all these people squabbling, trying to do each other in, all deciding that they should be the ruler, all these various groups. And yep, you get the stability of one guy and you've got one direction then. You don't have to worry anymore.
Well, in ancient Egypt, basically everything, and I mean everything, basically everything depends on management of the Nile. If you don't get that right, you don't have a civilization. And the only possible thing that they had to correctly manage the Nile was the system that they developed.
Oh, you mean the irrigation?
Yeah, irrigation and but if you do that in any way wrong, you're gone. You're extinct. You're in Egypt. You do what works in that situation. You don't have a choice.
Oh, well, you don't want to be up and down like the Assyrian Empire, do you? As Monty Python said.
Yeah. There we go. Sound of Thunder.
Okay, well, this art isn't exactly as outstanding, is it?
Al Williamson? I don't mind it. You know, the interesting thing about EC Comics was they did the captions and the dialogue balloons and the lettering they pasted it up on the art pages before they gave the art pages to the artists, to the penciler. They would paste up the captions and the dialogue balloons and then give the artboards to the pencilers. And I don't, that's unique. I don't think there's any other comic procedure that used that particular method.
Okay, so
And that's why
right,
they
they've
look,
created the word board and they give that to the artist,
yeah, that's why they
and
look
then
like
you
this.
say the pencilers came in after that.
Yeah. and then you fill up with the blank spots. But they posted the captions and the dialogue first, and then the pencilers drew around them. And that's why EC Comics looked like this. Nobody else ever did that. And that's why it's such a unique look, unique style. It works.
Okay, so the artist would draw what exactly?
Well, between the well in the blank spaces.
And the pencilers would color it.
No, there's the pencilers do it's the self-descriptive in the title. The penciler's pencil, the inker's ink, the colorist's color. Usually I guess you would say the penciler and the inker were one person, so I guess that would be the artist. But not always. Sometimes it would be a separate penciler and a separate inker.
Oh, well, you could redo this story. The guy happy at the thought that Donald Trump has been defeated and then coming back and he's in power.
Hmm.
So he chickened out at the sight of a Tyrannosaurus. It was more terrifying than he expected.
Hmm.
Well, this is obviously game hunting with the Tyrannosaurus sorts some in from the boys. Because we got the early version of the Tyrannosaurus where it tends to walk practically upright. Okay, so the theory is that the dinosaur was about to get killed by the falling tree, so they figured that it could have hardly any effect on history.
Right. Yeah.
So they did this one in the Ray Bradbury Theatre, and they did it again in the early 2000s, I think. But of course, the the theory is the butterfly effect, which was a popular theory. So literally, he has a butterfly. Okay, so much for the English language. This was an interesting one, the King of the Grey Spaces. It looked a bit dull at first, but then you sort of get a bit sucked into it. Okay, nothing but teenage boys aspiring to be manly men. It's exactly as it should be. Okay, I'm trying to figure out. There's this pain where this guy
Hmm.
is doing a figurative gesture, which at the time probably meant
Hmm.
something else. I think that figurative gesture uh, probably something to do with ideas, with perhaps a fantasy idea or something like that, or something which would be seen as simplistic or easy. And then it became started to symbolize homosexuality at some point, possibly as something that occurred in Britain before America. Like the outfits, looks crazy. Short pants, weird jacket. Oh, okay, what's he got there? He's got a girdle. That just looks crazy, doesn't it?
Mhm. Mhm. Future fashion.
Okay, there's the mother. She works a job, and I think she's got an unhealthy interest in his friend. Of course, this would have been something that was actually happening in the time, you know, having young guys go off to say serve in the Air Force. So these guys are looking very bourgeois, actually. So they were probably modelled on the bourgeois Americans of the 1940s. Okay, I like his outfit. Got to get myself one of them. You definitely don't want to be seen in space in anything else, I reckon. Got to have some tights on when you go out into space. So, you know, he's meeting the hero, the significant other to inspiring. So when he's away, she's going to get his friend to move into the house. Okay. Got a round telescreen.
Okay.
That's probably built around the concept of a vacuum tube.
Hmm.
Okay, I think in one of the stories, Bradbury works on the idea that they've created a superior rocket fuel, so something which doesn't need the enormous quantities that they used in the moon rockets and that. Of course, a crashed spaceship with skeletons around it would mirror a crashed B-17 bomber or something like that. So this was the sentient ship telling its story. Got some saboteurs there. So they're going to fight the Martians. Okay, so the original captain comes back to the ship.
Yeah.
The October game seems to draw a lot of interest for some reason. I assume for some weird reason the dad kills the daughter and uses her in the macabre game in order to get revenge on his wife because she didn't give him a son. I might have to read the original version of this story. It just seems a bit weird.
Right.
Okay, anyway, this is a guy that gets his jollies by doing something destructive.
Mm.
It's the great bane of the rationalists, the thought that people are out to get their jollies, and it can be anything that's irrational. The Black Ferris, this is a principle which he had in Something Wicked This Way Comes. You're not familiar with that story, are you, David?
I'm familiar with them.
Because he had the lightning machine in that caused the red-headed guy to become this evil little kid. So it took the ears off. In this case, he was using the technology simply to steal the wealth of a widow.
Mm.
Well, there you go. There's a master plan, how to keep a kid from going out at night, take his clothes away. I think they've forgotten that one these days.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
Look at that central pane there. There's a kid and he's looking older.
Right.
So the artist hasn't quite done his work properly there.
I think it's kind of interesting to see Jack Davis trying so very hard to play it straight, because you usually see him just doing comedy.
Oh, Jack Davis, did you say?
Yeah, Jack Davis. Everybody knows the famous Mad Magazine movie parodies.
Alrighty, yeah, yeah. He's not mentioned for this one. It's got some
Oh,
guy called John Severin and Will Elder.
really? Well, it says right there, Jack Davis. Black Ferris was Jack Davis.
Okay. Oh, so it's got his signature somewhere
Right,
there.
right there. Jack Davis did this.
Right, yeah. Okay.
Which one is the Severin and Elder?
Yeah, it's oh wait a minute. No, I'm getting mixed up. Yeah, right. Yeah. Just looking at the wrong one. Black Ferris. Jack Davis. Yeah, you're right.
Okay. Yeah, everybody knows the famous movie parodies that Mad Magazine would do. Uh,
Yeah, yeah, used to look at quite a few of them.
those were all Jack Davis.
I'm not sure though if it was Mad Magazine or Cracked. Maybe it was Mad. It's when Darth Vader captures Princess Leia and he says, you know, this is the 100th time you've captured me. Have you ever thought about adopting me? This becomes poignant by the later movies.
Yeah, right.
Okay, so the Ferris machine ages him. That's uh, that's actually sort of reminiscent of the remake of the Time Machine. There was the Time Machine version they did in the early 2000s. Have you ever seen that?
No, I never saw it.
I suppose the beauty of it, it was, although it's not quite the classic that George Pell is, it was still very good. And the Time Machine was a much bigger device, and he's fighting a Morlock, and the Morlock is hanging out the machine, so he sets the machine going forwards, and the Morlock's arms are inside the machine's field, stay whole, but the Morlock outside the machine ages and breaks down into a skeleton. So that's this sort of concept's been replayed a bit here. Surprise package. Oh, okay. Here's another guy that liked the fabulous female form by looks of things. What we got?
This is Jack Kamen, I believe.
Right.
Jack Kamen. I believe he's the father of what's his name? The Segway guy.
Jack Cayman.
Dean Kamen is the inventor of the Segway. Yeah, the inventor of the Segway is the son of Jack Kamen.
Oh, okay, Dean Cayman, right.
Yeah, you know, the Segway, that Segway thing.
His invention of Segway and, well, yeah, I think I have sort of heard of it, but that doesn't ring a bell.
You must have seen it on,
Oh, right. Yeah, that weirdo scooter. Okay.
yeah, you must have seen it on television.
Yeah, yeah, they sort of took off for a while and now they're just going back to the normal scooter. I don't know what the advantage of the Segway was.
Uh,
Maybe it was good for rough ground. I don't know. It was the
there were
I,
some individuals who have physical challenges who found it useful. I would see a student here and there at school who made use of them.
Oh, this is thoroughly with Schopenhauer. Women are just evil.
Hmm.
So he's been reading his Schopenhauer. Schopenhauer's very big. I think from about the 1850s to about 2000. Sorry, 1950. So he'd been very popular amongst the Americans in the early part of the 20th century. There's a later story of this character, isn't it? And he's looking worse for wear. Put on weight, I think. So this is a story of the imitation robots. So this is the sort of girl they called a man trap or a man eater.
I kind of like those 1950s style background blobs there in the background. They're just decorative images, but I kind of dig them. Kind of funky. You see another one down here. There. They're just like decorative bits to enliven the figures, to contrast against the figures. But I dig them. They're just kind of fun.
I believe Matalia downloaded the two copies.
Did she? Oh, okay.
Yeah, she was a bit curious. So she was thinking about joining the meeting. So I gave her the links, which were still working last night.
Yeah, I don't think I've trashed them yet. The Comics Journal did an interview with Jack Kamen, and God is my witness, you will never guess who the interviewer was. In 100 years, you'd never guess who the interviewer of that interview was.
Right, yeah, I'll have a little think about that.
No, you'll never guess. Give up?
No, I haven't given up yet. Rightio. Uh,
But you're not gonna.
Harlan Ellison.
Good guess, but no, you're not gonna get it.
Oh, okay, Ronald Reagan.
No.
Uh, somebody is well known. All right, I'll try something really crazy. William Shatner,
No,
Leonard Nimoy.
no.
Uh,
It's not someone well known. No,
oh, not somebody well known. Okay, that's going
but
to make
it's someone you know.
somebody I know.
Well, you know who he is, but the general public doesn't know who he is. You and I know who he is.
You're not saying Kenneth Smith.
I guess that's right. Exactly. Kenneth Smith conducted the interview. How about that?
You said never in 100 years, but you gave it away when you started to say somebody you'll know, but is not well known.
I've got
And he would be one of your favourites, you see. So
I've got it.
okay,
Read it.
Mars is just bad news. The souls of dead Martians are awaiting. Okay, now I like this. So this is Mars. Obviously, I check out the flag. Well, he lands and he goes, well, so this is Mars. What is he, a flippin' tourist or something?
Right.
This is like Armstrong landing and saying, ah, so this is the moon.
Right. Right.
But they got the UN flag, which looks amazingly like that crazy flag that's floating around today.
I think Eddie Izzard said, well, it wasn't the greatest line for man first walking on the moon, but it could have been worse. He could have gotten down and said, "Ew, it's all sticky."
Well, who was it? The comedian who said he could have signed up a deal and he could have just put his foot down and said Coca-Cola. Okay, so we've got the rainbow flag at the back there. In the name of the government of Earth, I proclaim this to be Martian territory to be equally divided between the member nations. I was having a little look at the it's on YouTube, the Martian Chronicles, which I know the scene at the end where Rock Hudson has a meeting with the alien, the Martian, the dead Martian, which is a very, very curious scene. I have to watch the whole thing, I think.
Yeah. We must presume this inspired Dave Gibbons and uh, John Higgins with their rendition of Mars and Watchmen.
Oh, okay. You think this one was an inspiration?
Well, the coloring scheme anyway, it's all pink, pinkish red, you know, which we saw in Watchmen. I'm sure it must have been in the back of their mind. I'm sure it must have been.
You know, when the Viking lander came down, they had something wrong with the colour, so it looked like Mars had a blue sky, and it was actually the wrong colour. It was, you know, a pinkish sky from the dust, which of course will give the conspiracy theorists room to say, "Ha ha, the Viking lander was, you know, faked." So you got this spirit which is possessing the bodies and killing off the bodies as it goes along indirectly. So the captain gets his marbles in him enough to realise something bad is happening.
Yeah.
Look, yeah, it's a very sort of nice sort of illustrations. Very,
Really? I
yeah,
believe
yeah,
this.
very, very impressive.
I believe this is Al Williamson again, who you just said you didn't care for.
Oh, I did, didn't I? Where did I say that?
I
Oh,
think this
okay.
is Al. Yeah, this is Al Williamson. Well, the earlier Al Williamson story you said you didn't like. Anyway. Yeah, I mean, I don't imagine anybody would ever mistake this for high literature. by any means, but you got to give it to Ray Bradbury for being a good craftsman at constructing a well-constructed story. High literature? Yeah, probably not, but they're nicely constructed pulp stories.
Yeah, I like the illustrations. These color illustrations are kind of nice. Especially,
It,
I mean, how long ago was this? How many years ago?
The EC comics of the 1950s
That's what I thought. Okay. Yeah.
were largely considered to be the best North American comics ever done. That's the popular reputation they have.
okay, and that's slightly excessive musculature he's got there, which was as bad as far as anybody could get without chemical aids. And now, they've got these. Oh, this is sort of. Was this exactly the same character? Was it? Because there was the earlier story where they were making the marionettes robots. In this case, he simply his wife has gone off with another man, so he wants to have the fantasy of killing her so he can put it behind her, but put it behind him, but he gets arrested for murder.
Mhm.
Yeah, I don't know. Uh, yeah, this would have been before the no fault divorce. So, well, a lot of times, in order to get out of a marriage, yeah, they had to knock the other one off.
Well, it worked if both wanted to get out of the marriage, but if one party wanted to retain the marriage, then it was very difficult.
Right, exactly.
Effectively, the easy way out was simply infidelity. That if one of the party had uh, decided they preferred somebody else and was living with them, or so was whatever, and the other party was agreeable, that was a basis for divorce. But if the other party decided, even though they'd been deserted, that they wished to retain the marriage in name, there was you couldn't get out of it then. And of course, it was all about money because the other partner had a right to the mutual wealth.
Yeah, I was just about to say that. I'm reminded of the old Alfred Hitchcock hour, there's a lot of that going on, trying to make it look like an accident or whatever.
Well, she looks like she's enjoying herself as she's destroyed. That's what she was programmed for.
Yeah. Well, when did
Uh, this is predominantly, of course, Gothic fiction, and it's very Nordic.
yeah, sure.
The, the word Gothic originally described the Nordics. So a tendency towards a sort of dark melancholy.
Well, all this was being done before women's lib. I just looked
Oh,
it up.
women's liberation had been something that had been underway since
Sure, of course.
at World War One, or even earlier, actually.
Well, sure, of course.
but hadn't quite spread its wings as that far and wide at this stage.
Yeah, the huge wave of it really. I just looked it up. Betty Friedan's The Feminine Mystique was published in '63. That's what got the ball rolling.
Okay, his wife shows up to see him before the sentence is carried out, and he tells her to go away. So he has that last delights of seeing his wife again with her new lover.
The over dramatic acting, the hammy expressions.
This was an era which was probably where the original viewing of fiction was stage plays.
Right.
TV and movies had just come along, so their roots were in the stage play, where you had to get the message to the audience at the back row.
The old Grand Guignol. Yeah.
The lake was quite interesting. Of course, there was nothing science fiction about that, and not really terribly horrifying either. It's just somebody who's recalls a girl he had a fixation on when he was young who died in a swimming accident.
Yeah.
That in the lake, they said, was the story which first drew attention to Bradbury.
Okay, so the rest is just what was inspired by, I guess.
Okay, so a certain sort of person was quite fond of Ray. Couple of stories about undertakers,
Right.
story about a magic coffin.
I went to a couple of talks of his in person, a number here and there. Got to see him in person.
Oh, there was a crazy one. The dinner party where just desserts, where he gets revenge on all the people that have crossed him, poisons them, and then removes their heads.
Some of the original artwork. Anyone cares? No covers. Okay, enough of that. Let's see if I can find the original. I probably won't be able to. No, it doesn't look like it.
The original.
Well, it's not important. I just wanted to see if, well, do you want to do well, you didn't read much of the first half, right?
Oh no, I read all the first
Oh,
half except for the stories at the start, which were about Bradbury himself. I just did the comics. Just Desserts, What the Dog Dragged In, Strange Undertaking, Model Nephew. Oh, okay, that was an interesting one. We had the What the Dog Dragged In. That was the a rich guy who found the blind woman who was in the wheelchair and fell in love with her, but he gets killed. She longs for him to come back, and the dog digs up his grave.
what the dog drag? 51.
What the Dog Dragged In, 51.
Coffin. Handler. Small assassin. Yeah, it's gonna take a while. Nephew. Strange undertaking. There it is. Another Jack Cameron. Well, sure. You don't see this much of this kind of this style of pen and ink work in comics anymore. In the first place, most of it's all artists today work digitally. They use computer effects. It's a shame. It's like uh it's like we don't get cell drawn animation movies anymore.
Excuse me for a second. I've forgotten something.
Yeah, sure. Mhm. Let's see. Hmm.
And where did you get these? I guess you have a digital subscription somewhere.
Um, sure. A lot of comics are available through various sources. If you're on your public library, they might have a subscription to Hoopla or Libby or something along those lines that might actually have comics in them. But the selection is always going to be spotty, but it's worth checking. Otherwise, there's plenty of other ways to get the comics if you know how.
I have Kindle, um, and I have something else too, but no, that's for movies. Never mind, that's Canopy. Um, yeah, I have Kindle. I don't know. Amazon seems to have a lot of comics, but I don't know if that's the best place to look for this since it's an archive.
Well, the thing Stephen and I do is I just go ahead and give Stephen the book that we're reading that particular week, and I'm happy to do that to anybody who asks. Um,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Ray Bradbury. I have The Martian Chronicles and I think another book. Oh, Illustrated Man. A couple books from him.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I haven't really delved that much into it myself.
This is
Uh,
our second Ray Bradbury meeting.
I did like the 1960s movie adaptation of Illustrated Man. Of course, not so much for the adaptions of the short stories, but that one particular shell story they had where Rod Steiger is hunting down Claire Bloom. That was quite powerful. I don't know, Ariel, did you ever see that movie?
No, I haven't seen that one. You said that was Rod
Rod
Steiger.
Steiger, Claire Bloom in they they made a movie of the Illustrated Man. Of course, not all the stories, just some of them. And actually, most of the stories were done a little bit lame, but the really seriously good bit was the shell story, which got this young guy wandering along and he meets this hobo that's played by Rod Steiger, and Rod Steiger has the skin illustrations. And the
Oh,
young
right.
guy starts to see the stories coming out of the skin
They come
illustrations.
alive, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
I think a long time ago I saw that. Was it black and white movie?
color.
It was color. Okay.
It
I'll have to find it again. I think I may have seen it a long time ago.
used to be on YouTube, but they've taken it off. I was quite enchanted by the story, quite very powerful. So there's quite a lot of Ray Bradbury stories that involve the gypsy elements or the carnival, the mysterious carnival that comes to town.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. True.
But this is the weird bit. I suppose you're familiar with the story Something Wicked This Way Comes. I've only watched the movie, which I thought was quite a good movie, but it bombed.
What, something wicked this way comes?
Yeah, they made a movie version in the 80s and it was quite
Oh
a
yeah.
respectable piece of work, but
Yeah, it was pretty good. I saw that.
it bombed at the box office. I think it might have been Walt Disney that made it, the Disney company that made it. But now this is a weird bit. That story, uh, he's copying a Scandinavian legend, but his mother was Swedish, so I think he must have gotten it from her. But they used to have this legend that the old Norse gods were wandering around as these gypsies or carnival type people. And by the 19th century, the imagery had become, for example, Thor was usually the leader, and they had dressed him up with in the image of, the Bailey and Balaam character, the sinister looking entrepreneur with the top hat and all that. And the story was that they were trying to reclaim their followers. Now, I know this legend, and of course, you can see it in one of his best known stories, which you realise, yeah, he had adapted a story. I'm pretty sure he would have heard off his mother. Oh, that's so. What's the image you've got on your there on your screen, Ariel? It's out of illustrated novel or something like that, is it?
No, it's just something I picked up. I like the picture. I
Oh,
don't
okay.
even I just searched for um what was the search? Sunshine, standing in the sunshine, and that came up. Yeah, I probably should try to find one on a good book. One of my favorites.
So there's a girl, Natalia. She used to join. She's in the art. She probably would have liked that image. She went to art school for a few years. She was going to work on her own comic, but as with a lot of things, it sort of passed away in time, and now she's probably perhaps got the time to start working on it again. She doesn't. I think she liked drawing better than using computer animation, though. That's drawing's a lot more satisfying, I suspect, than using software. I was trying to encourage her in the story based in the late Roman Empire, which story-wise is often pretty neglected. People do stories about the Roman Empire, they tend to, go with the period of Caesar and Cleopatra. But the people don't really go much in for the late Empire, which I think is a fascinating period. The breakdown of society, the apocalyptic element. Okay, the one after that was a strange undertaking. The Undertaker is hated by everybody, so he gets revenge on their bodies.
Right.
Model nephew, okay, the old sailor who likes making model ships. The nephew murders him for his money and then finds out that he's trapped on a model ship.
Yeah.
A work of art. So you have the undertaker whose daughter marries a jobless guy who has taught the art of undertaking but doesn't want to do it in the method of the father, who's disappointed. But this used to be a very, very common scenario for people to get a job in life, that, they married somebody and they married into a trade. I remember a guy who built telescopes and stuff and made optical parts, but he'd acquired his skill from his wife's brother. Okay, a lesson in anatomy. He foils a Martian invasion. Or no, it wasn't a Martian invasion, was it? It was something else. Golly, a man. So the aliens want to find out Earth's technical secrets. Okay, I'll spill all the beans for a dime. I'm trying to remember now, what's a dime in American currency? Is that 5 cents or 10 cents?
10 cents.
10 cents, rightio. Brother, can you spare a dime?
Yeah.
So it's the price of for a coffee and treat at one stage, perhaps. I think at the beginning of World War II, the hourly wage was 25 cents an hour. So I guess that would have been enough for a coffee and cake, which for a starving man would have made all the difference. So Bugs Bunny encountered that character numerous times, and he gave, at the end of one story, gave the guy a penguin. So an alien was operating a human robot. We will abandon our invasion plans. We will wait, perhaps in some future eon. They are too clever for us. They are too advanced scientifically. Mars is heaven. Now, this is a rather outstanding story. I don't know if anybody had preceded Bradbury in this style of story. So you have the astronauts going to Mars with the Martians creating a fake Earth town and pretending to be humans. It was a storyline used in the John Agar film, Seven to Uranus, and which was a sort of a turning point in science fiction where it gets where it crosses the line between hard science fiction and weird mind stuff. So they go to Mars in hope of finding their old hometown, in a sense. It's an interesting pistol he's got there. He's got one of them, what was it, pre-Luger guns. Germans made in the 1890s. Name, but okay, the Mauser C96. What in the hell is he doing with the Mauser C96 in the 1950s? And the Luger had come in around about 1900 and started using the famous 9mm ammunition in 1908. Again, of course, this is the carnival story where people are being fooled. Only this time most elaborately. If something looks too good to be true, Mum. Well, there's a certain longing for one's mother, which is quite a powerful emotion. It never quite leaves you. Okay, they bury the astronauts at the end. One, it's a nice finish, complete with a tombstone.
Oh man.
The Silent Towns. Oh, okay. Now I recall this story. So this is Bradbury had this series of short stories that were fitted together with the theme that Earth gets destroyed in a nuclear war. The last colonists had taken back to Earth shortly before the nuclear war, with some remaining on Mars, which was the basis of a Rock Hudson story. Okay, he finds the voice of a girl on the phone and eventually tracks her down. They're still using landlines on Mars.
Yeah, right.
Okay, happy days.
Yeah.
It would have worked better if she had a personality.
Yeah.
Walter Grip, come back. Walter Griff, come back. Grip. Walter Grip, come back. And he's happy as Larry being by himself.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, he could have had the dumb girl with the perfect figure, but he got the dumb girl with the worst figure.
Mhm.
Okay, the long years where the guys recreated his family with robots. And the long journey in Starship, maybe not a Starship, makes it back to Mars and hasn't been to Earth. They've lost contact with Earth. Too sure, but he's burning down the plastic city. So there was a town there which he wants to burn down for some reason. I'm trying to figure out the significance that they're all spilling the wine on their lips.
Well, there's Probably no mechanism for them to actually ingest anything.
That's a good point. And I discover that the family hasn't aged. Well, these marionettes are chill. They don't seem to worry about anything too much. Okay, this was the computer house, which was still functioning after the family had been wiped out.
Yeah, yeah.
So the destruction of Earth occurred around about 2026.
Yeah.
Anyway, Ray Bradbury certainly had a pessimistic outlook.
Hmm.
You get the impression he must have been bullied at school because, he's probably a bit of a nerd, thick glasses, the sort that traditionally they all used to pick on. So he went to the White House with W. So Bradbury went from being a Democrat, he switched around with the 1980 revolution and became Republican. Okay, I like this image. What do you reckon?
Frank Frazetta.
Ah, is that who it is? Rightio. So
Frank
he's got
Frazetta.
his wild man there. And that is a pretty crazy outfit she's got on. It's well, she's got a helmet big enough to keep her hairstyle in place. What was Frazetta's background?
Frazetta's,
European, Hungarian, or
he was Sicilian.
rightio, okay. Well,
And he
that's
knew mob guys.
oh, did he?
Yeah, he
Uh,
did.
yeah, well, that looks very Italian. It's you're going to look good wherever you're going to go, and you're not going to go for not looking good. This is the Italian chic.
I believe he grew up in Brooklyn.
But Frazetta, he's like well, he'd probably be about the biggest name you've got in these covers, isn't he? I don't think there'd be anybody bigger than him.
You might be right.
Oh, okay, this was the story that was used for the Rock Hudson movie. So Earth's been destroyed in a nuclear war. And I'm amazed they just don't look that broken up, do they?
Hmm.
It's a bit like Lost in Space, family outing in the chariot.
Yeah, this is another one of the variations, I think.
William N. Gaines and Al Feldstein. Yeah. Well, this is Elon Musk, isn't it?
Hmm.
So the original Bradbury story was Mars. So they thought they'll disguise it by doing Venus.
Sure. Right.
Then they run into a Venetian that looks rather sort of Buck Roger-ish, Edgar Rice Burroughs. The There was the R-rated film Flesh Gordon, which made a mockery of all this sort of imagery. And then they made the high arts Flash Gordon, which just went with all this imagery. By the time everybody had figured out it was ridiculous.
Yeah.
Now, but I think in the original story, he fell into the sun. So it wouldn't have exactly been home to stay, but in this one, he burns up in the Earth's atmosphere.
Well, there's an enormous amount of EC comics. If you would be interested in going
Oh,
through
yeah,
them.
well, we could look at some other stuff.
Really? You're interested?
Oh, well, certainly this is much more interesting stuff than most of the modern stuff.
We could
I
just do
find,
EC and nothing else.
sorry?
I mean, if we did all the EC comics, we could just do that for years. Nothing else.
Oh, we could look at some other things. Don't have to look at everything, of course. Uh,
Lots of
well, there's a crazy image on the second part, 166. So they're showing a few covers. Oh, okay. This is probably the story where the guy comes down and he seems to be a godlike figure because he's got modern technology.
This one?
Yeah, it was one story where the astronaut lands, wanders around the planet, discover there's humans there who are sort of medieval, and becomes a virtual Jesus story with healing people with his drugs and demonstrating powers with his technology.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, page 166, I think I've got here.
Are you on one or two? Home to stay one?
Two.
Two. You're on two.
Yeah, that's it's an interesting cover, isn't it? It's very typical, actually. So he's got them lined up as something sort of looking a bit Wagnerian and medieval. And then the following illustration is a spaceship with the skeletons sticking out of it. Then we got the Tyrannosaurus, the Autumn People. Okay, that's a story that wasn't in this lineup, I think. Was it?
Well, it wasn't a real Ray Bradbury adaptation. But if we do all the EC comics, then I guess we'll get to that one. But it's not a Ray Bradbury story. Inspired by the man, but not really. Doesn't really count.
Okay, so they got the biographies of the various artists at the back of number 2.
You remember 1212 Las Navas de Tolosa? I would
12,
s-
12.
Las Navas de Tolosa. Remember when we did that one?
Oh, okay. That was set in Spain, was it? El Cid or something like that, or the Reconquista?
I don't know about you, but I would say that's a really good inheritor of the EC comics graphic style.
So the story was set in Spain, was it, or
Yeah, you remember that one?
it was a medieval story? So I think something about the Reconquista or El Cid or something like that, was it?
It'd take me a while to find it now. But that art was, yeah, just as excellent as the EC artist, I think. And a lot of these guys didn't go on very much further past EC. Some of them did, but not many. Al Williamson ended up spending a lot of years doing Marvel and DC stuff.
Yeah, well, the market probably changed. You went into the inflation area, which was the death knell for a lot of stuff. You know, shows that would have gone on longer, like the original Star Trek, were killed by inflation. And there was some good stuff in the 70s, but it was pretty much a big decline in output. So originally, I think these jobs were well paid. There was a lot of money in this work originally, well, relatively speaking. So they had the talent, they had the money, and the talent was content with the money they were getting. And then that changed. Probably the talent wasn't as great later on. They were born in an era where they would go to learn at an institute somewhere, and they weren't mollycoddled. You know, the instructor would come over and say, "Are you shitting me? I want better than that." To an era where the students got mollycoddled, and they'll tell, the instructors would tell certain students, "Well, you're wasting your time, bugger off." And for the vast majority, that was probably a good choice. And they concentrated on the people that had real talent, and that produced these sort of artists. This was not the easy ride. Okay, which one are we doing next week?
Anything you want to say about since we didn't get a chance to talk about it, we didn't um, Fahrenheit 451, which was our last Bradbury, but we didn't get a chance to talk about it. If you want to say anything about it.
Oh, it was a while ago now, wasn't it?
Yeah, Fahrenheit 451. But we never got a chance to meet on that one. But
Uh, yeah, I thought it was pretty okay. What I recollect of it,
yeah.
as it was around the time we were doing. So that's a Ray Bradbury,
Well, that was our first Ray Bradbury. This is actually our second. There's more to come.
and that was around the same time I was looking at androids. So it's fairly recent, going back around January or something like that, was it?
Yeah, something like that.
Well, I enjoyed the comic, as I recollect. Should be able to bring it up easy enough.
Cool. That's fine. Here, this one, La Navas de Tolosa.
Yeah,
Remember
yeah,
this?
I recall it. Yeah.
But see, I bring it up because the quality of the artwork strikes me as just about up there on the level of quality
So this was hand drawn, was it?
as well, sure, absolutely, as the EC classics. But yeah, you remember this. Yeah, really nice work. Really nice work.
And I suspect very expensive work time-wise.
It takes a while to draw this by hand, yeah. But really excellent, excellent work, I thought. An inheritor of the great EC tradition, I thought. From somebody I'd never heard of before. This,
Well,
yeah,
as the centuries go by, they're probably going to look upon this period like we look on the old masters.
yeah, look at that.
They'll be talking about this stuff 5 centuries from now.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, look at that. That's really great stuff, right?
Yeah, yeah. Well, of course, he's done everything. He's not only doing the figures, he's doing the backgrounds as well
Sure.
with a great intensity.
Yeah, nice work. Nice work. Yeah, I'm glad we did this one. Yeah, just look at that. Good stuff. Okay. So, okay, we'll do more EC when we get around to it.
I was just wondering which one we're doing next week.
Well, I'm finishing up with Graphic Canon of Crime and Mystery.
Oh, that's next week, is it? Oh, rightio. So that, uh,
Wherever we left off.
uh,
I still think that's a great series and would love to keep going with that one. It's worth going through, continuing.
okay, so about 2/3 of the way through.
So we'll do the last third for next week. There's
Yeah, it was
always
getting
good stuff in
very
there.
long. It was version of the Murders in the Rue Morgue, which
Yeah, right.
I didn't highly appreciate.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah. There's good stuff in there. It's worth going through. Good enough to keep going with.
Oh,
We're down with
okay.
that.
Oh, well, almost a two hours up. I suppose we can wrap up the meeting then, I guess.
Sure. Okay.
I was trying to think if there's something else I was going to say. There's something on during the week. Oh, that's right. I didn't make
Yeah,
the
Maxwell's
meeting
Demons.
on the comic because I had to go out. I do a Probus thing, people in my elderly age group
Mhm.
for social life. And
Sure, yeah.
uh, I
Did
gave
you
up
have it?
working back in when I was 58. And that's why I'm digging into philosophy. Just wanted
Yeah.
to, I would say at the moment, unless you're really struggling for cash or you like your job, there's no point in working. It's, for example, the ordinary job in the old days, people were nicer, they were friendlier. Today, you got, I think Matali is the childcare job she had a couple of months ago sums it up. First, they sacked all the workers, then they sacked the managers, and finally they gave the company the sack. This is what it's like these days. It's very cutthroat. It's
Yeah.
very, very unpleasant. And maybe I'll get a job in my next incarnation when things have changed.
Why I live the way I live.
Of course, if Donald's plans come to fruition and the Communist Party of China collapses, there's probably it'll be inflationary, but you'd probably find a lot of demand for workers in the US would suddenly rise.
Hmm.
They're all discussing Donald's plans now, and they're going, well, what's he doing? Well, I could point to interviews made with Trump 40 years ago where he's telling them all exactly what he was going to do, and he's doing it now.
Well,
They make their odd day comparison to Adolf Hitler. Adolf was telling everybody in Mein Kampf what he was going to do, and they didn't believe him.
well, anything that you might want to say about Maxwell's Demons since you read it?
Uh, yeah, it's nicely done. It's nice illustrations and that, but I'll probably it's easy enough to get through. I'll probably go through the rest and see how I go. But it's not my style of story. It's modern. It's it's Gen Z. It's you
Uh,
know it's an obsession with self. Uh, it's a disregard for reality. You know, you look at these old stories and people are trying to negotiate with reality. They might have some screwed up ideas, but the modern story is that you can beat reality. That idealism can beat reality. That's where people are today, the new generation. The old story was reality is reality. You have your dreams, but you're just going to have to cope with reality. But today they figured they can get rid of reality and replace it with the dream. So it's a very, very modern story. I probably can't be overly critical of it. It's nice, nice work as far as the illustrations go.
okay.
But I prefer the old stuff. I think I find that the modern stuff is rather pretentious generally.
Mm. I like that it had some depth to it. There was some thought to it. Something resembling a message. Mm.
Okay, there's Fahrenheit 451. Okay, it was okay. It told the story, but I think it could have been done better. See,
Yeah.
I rather like the movie actually. There's that great scene, of course, where they find the hidden library and Beatty is going into his philosophical outlook. And the more and more you watch that scene, the more and more you agree with Beatty that, all these philosophers, all of them saying exactly the same thing, except I am right. There's that brilliant sequence from the 1966 film. Uh, yeah, you should give it a watch, I suppose. It's just a brilliant scene. It's uh,
Yeah. All right. Well, two Ray Bradbury books down. More to come.
For over 10 years, Dulux has protected us.
And more
so-
Lovecraft. More Carl Barks.
yeah, more of Lovecraft, who I'm just finding is sort of like a bit weird. He's even weird for a weirdo.
Yeah.
There was something pretty tragic going on in Lovecraft somewhere.
I believe we got one more Philip K. Dick to go through.
Oh yeah, I'll be okay. But this little sequence here, yeah, it's one of the YouTubes where they burn the library. But what Beatty has to say is just quite more captivating every time I watch the sequence.
Hmm. All
Of course,
right.
Beatty was in the film was an O'Brien. He was a person who'd strayed from the path and been brought back to orthodoxy. Anyway, thanks a lot, David. See you,
Yep.
Ariel.
Sure, Stu. See you on Tuesday for you. All right, Ariel. Thanks for being here.
Oh, sorry. I accidentally clicked on that link you gave me. It started playing. I couldn't get it to turn off.
Oh, you'll
Um,
love it.
yeah, I
Brilliant.
got that link. Well, I'm sorry, what were you asking me?
Oh, just saying goodbye.
Oh, it's over.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, the YouTube link would not turn off and I kept trying to turn it off, so I was distracted.
Just
Okay.
listen to Beatty again. You'll join the other side. You'll want to burn books too.
Oh, okay. So what's this link for next time? What are you guys doing?
We're doing the graphic canon of crime and mystery. If
The
you're
last
interested in
third.
doing that. Yeah, the last third.
Okay. All right. Well, yeah, I definitely love Crescent, and Philip and PKD. Yeah. If you do, I'll definitely be there. I don't know much about that crime and what is crime and what'd you say?
Crime and mystery, was it?
Crime and mystery.
Crime and mystery.
But
So,
don't let that fool you. I mean, it's very, very expansive. It
oh, okay.
covers a lot. But I take
The
requests.
graphic canon of crime and mystery. So it's about 300 pages worth of various short stories.
But we're already 200 pages in, so we're only doing 100 pages.
Okay.
But I take requests. If you've got anything in mind that you'd like to cover one of these days, something you've always been interested in that you might think would be good to chat
Was
about,
there
let me know.
anything? Yeah, is there anything on The Man in the High Castle?
There's never been a comic adaptation of The Man in the High Castle.
Ah, okay.
No, I
Um,
think we've covered every Philip K. Dick comic that's available that I could find.
then I would say if not that, then Brand New World.
There is a Brave New World graphic novel. I'll have to check on that and see if I can acquire it. All right, I'll check on Brave New World.
They had the mini series, didn't they? With Kerr Duella in it back in the 70s, and they lost the original print, I think the story is. So I don't think there's a full version of it anymore, so they say.
They did a television series on it. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, Brave New World. Yeah, you've heard of Kerr Duella, who played the astronaut in the film 2001.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I think he was like the main character.
Oh, okay. I'll check that out. I didn't know they had done one on it.
Oh, okay. I'd surely find it fit quick enough. Uh,
Well, the you're talking about the 1960s one,
no, this was 70s, I think, or
70s.
80s.
Yeah, the 1970s one probably is not available, at least not a full version of it. But
The story is that they lost the original print uh, series.
yeah, but the modern one, I don't think it got great reviews. The one they did recently.
Right, okay.
I don't think a lot of people liked that one. That's what I heard. I might be wrong.
Snowpiercer's another one that I'm kind of obsessed with right now. I've been reading the graphic novels of it. They're quite good. The artwork is pretty good.
Of
Well, yeah,
which
there's the Wikipedia on the Brave New World 1980.
1980. Okay.
graphic
I
novels are you wanting to read, Ariel?
Snowpiercer.
Yeah, that is out there. Yeah, Snowpiercer. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, those are
Okay.
definitely out there. Yeah.
I got the link, I think. Oh, is it not working? Oh, there it goes. Okay.
Okay, see us all another time.
Okay.
Okay. Thanks a lot.